In 2021, it's safe to say that the Elder Scrolls series is one of the most famous of all time. And that's not just because Skyrim is on every device imaginable. Games like Oblivion and Morrowind are prime examples of good open-world RPGs, so it was really no surprise that a massively multiplayer counterpart would release at some point. And release it did. In 2014, The Elder Scrolls Online was released for PC and later for console. Before we begin, if you like this video, be sure to comment and subscribe, and let me know if there are any games that you'd like to see me talk about in the future. Now, let's journey to Tamriel. The game had a rocky launch, to say the least. I first played it during the beta, and it didn't really leave much of an impression. Above all else, I felt the game kinda lacked a lot of the depth and character of other MMOs on the market. So when the game actually released, I didn't pick it up. In fact, it would be another 3 years before I picked up the game in 2017 with the launch of the first expansion, Morrowind. In that time, a lot had changed with the game. It had moved from a pay-to-play model, the standard for MMOs, to a single time payment with an optional subscription. When I joined the world, there was already a pretty active and vibrant community, tons of dedicated players happy to help new players learn the ropes, but what I found most interesting above all else was a story far more engaging than most MMOs at the time. By this point, I had played my fair share of MMOs. World of Warcraft lost me after Mists of Pandaria, I had grown past games like Wizard 101, and Lord of the Rings Online just felt a bit too grindy for me. Amazing story-heavy MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV didn't really exist yet, at least not in the state they're in now. So having a game with an interesting, branching storyline in an MMO package was really something different for the market. Then, there was also the addition of taking the location from my favorite Elder Scrolls game and updating it for modern audiences. That was a huge draw. And finally, one last draw, the game introduced a new class which could have a massive pet bear. It doesn't get much cooler than that. So that was my entry point to the game. But here I am, 7 years after the game's release, 736 hours played, thanks Steam, and 5 expansions later. So while this video is a retrospective, it is also a review of where the game is right now and what it can do to maintain its place in the MMO limelight. Let's talk about it. The Blackwood expansion released on June 1st, 2021 to moderate reviews. Lots of 7s and 6s across the board. It's not the best reviewed ESO expansion, but it is certainly higher scoring than the previous expansion, Great Mmo To, which I actually had a lot of fun with, but that's besides the point. The expansion brings with it a number of changes and improvements, as well as about 20 hours worth of new content. A pretty solid offering for an MMO. The biggest addition to talk about from the expansion is the new companion system. In a similar vein to that of Skyrim, you can now have companions follow you around and fight with you. They come with different builds and an approval system called Rapport. As someone who is primarily a solo player of the game, this adds a lot of versatility and also makes certain group content like public dungeons, which can be difficult solo, into a much more doable process. But while I like the addition, there are still things I would like to see added or changed. Firstly, I would love to see more variety or customization for the companions. Currently, there are only 2 in the game, a female Dark Elf and a male Imperial. In the future, I want to see representation of companions for every race, or better yet, the ability to create your own companion. It could literally use the character creator that is already in the game. There's also the limited amount of armor and weapons available. I would love a system similar to Skyrim where you can equip any gear to your companion. The way it is now just feels kind of boring. Not to mention, companions can't even show helmets right now. So of course, I get that it could put some strain on the servers adding that in, and the best way to implement it wouldn't be all at once, but slowly. So starting with just 2 companions is fine, but for the system to work, it's gotta grow. The other big addition I want is more use for the companions. They help in combat, but that's about it. I want to see passive bonuses for having your companions in certain roles, like better prices while trading, or a small increase to crafting materials gathered. It doesn't need to be anything big, but I just want companions to be more useful than they are right now. Blackwood's story is your standard Elder Scrolls fare, which is a good thing. I mean, it's not really Elder Scrolls without it. There's a main quest line which leads you through the new area, Blackwood, as seen in the game Oblivion. There's also plenty of side quests to be had, as well as new endgame raid content if that's your thing. There was one thing notably missing from this expansion though, and that is a new class. In the past, every other expansion has featured a new class, starting with Morrowind where we got Warden, and then in Elsewhere where we got Necromancer. So, logically, we should have gotten a new class in Blackwood, but for better or for worse, we didn't. As of right now, I'm okay with no new class. With the recent rework of the champion point system, I want to see a bit more focus given to the classes they currently have before they introduce new classes into the mix. But I do look forward to new classes in the future. Other additions I would like to see are some new weapons and potentially some new skill trees for classes. But like I just said, they should focus on balancing what they already have. Now, if you're still watching this and you're someone who's trying to decide if they want to play the game or not, here's what I've got to say. Elder Scrolls Online is a great MMO to play if you're the kind of person who, 1, hates grinding. Since the game all scales to your level, being a high level isn't as important. 2, you hate paying subscription fees. The game's subscription is entirely optional. You can pay it if you want to and you'll get a few bonuses, but thankfully, there's nothing that makes the game pay to win. And 3, if you want the MMO experience, but you don't want to be forced to party up to actually progress in the game. 75% of my time with ESO has been solo play, and the other 25% is sporadic random dungeons and PvP, so there are a lot of good reasons to pick up ESO. As an added bonus, it goes on sale all the time, so you can get it super cheap. Plus, if you buy the most recent expansion, Blackwood, then you get the game and all the expansions, so it's really easy to get into the game with a large amount of content. There are still some bad things though, and some things that might be a turnoff for new players. For one, the end game requires you to have and play all of the content, and that means getting a myriad of DLC packs that have been released over the years. See, the game has expansions, which are the large content packs, but there is also DLC, which are usually single area, short storyline packages. ESO subscribers get access to these DLC, as long as they're subscribed, but you can also get them by just paying for them. But a lot of the time, the gear from these DLC packs are required if you want to be a top tier raider or PvP player. This can be a big turnoff for some people. Thankfully, it's never been a problem for me. I'm not really here for the end game, I'm just here to have a fun time, and ESO has provided that for me. ESO has provided an MMO experience which is pretty hugely different from other games on the market. In both story and gameplay, ESO is a unique game and one that longtime Elder Scrolls fans and new players can get something out of. The game has grown a ton over its 7 years, but it still has room for improvement, and a lot that can be added or changed to make the game better than it has been before. Whether or not this will happen remains to be seen, but I remain hopeful. Tamriel is a huge world with a lot to explore, so just stop watching this right now and go out there and play the dang game already. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe for more videos in the future. If there are any games you want to see me talk about, let me know in the comments. Peace out, y'all. I'll catch you on the flip side.